Mandrake, make me a drink of grain alcohol and rainwater. Make yourself whatever you'd like. Anyway, I thought I'd film this at a Dutch angle kind of to make it more interesting. But anyway, um, how's everyone? I wanted to talk today about lessons I learned from fighting games, okay? So, I started playing Street Fighter 2 when I was a kid. I don't know how old I was. I remember it in the arcade. I was probably 8 years old, 7 or 8, something like that. I played it pretty religiously for a long time, and I would credit fighting games with being the first place that I really felt um, an altered state of consciousness, or at least a certain altered state of consciousness, which would be what you would call being in the flow state or in the zone. Um, a loss of a sense of self and full immersion, and to a point where at times it's almost like you're reading your opponent's mind. It's almost like you stop controlling, you don't even pay attention to your character and you just become them. You almost become another person at the highest level. What they call downloading somebody, you know. Um, Obviously at the highest levels of competition that only happens for moments. Usually, not necessarily, sometimes you can really just get inside somebody's head. But I mean, that's what I enjoy about it. It's a mental, psychological battle. It's a battle of will and intention and the heart, and the amount of time and effort and training you've put into things shows. It shows hard work and whatnot. Sports are like that, but there's something unique to fighting games. I'm not quite sure what it is that it's different than other things. It's like fighting because something that made me much better at fighting games was when I began to actually study fighting. Like when I read Bruce Lee's The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, it amazed me how many of those principles I could carry over into playing Street Fighter and other fighting games. Virtua Fighter is a game I really, really love, but there's just nobody plays it. But anyway, um, Bruce Lee taught a lot of techniques about how to get into and stay in the zone, and that altered state of consciousness. And what I want to talk about here is, for me, that was the reason to play fighting games. There was obviously the thing that fueled me, that allowed me to get to that state of consciousness, was my competitive nature. Okay, this is the same way that great suffering can lead to just immediate enlightenment. You know, you can read Eckhart Tolle's story or the story of Gautama Buddha or whatever, but great suffering often leads to enlightenment in the way that people find God in jail. But great passion, any sort of great motivating energy force, right? So whether that be great suffering, even depression, which you don't think of as an energy force, but it is. Depression is an energy force that looks within. We don't see it that way because we typically, when we're depressed, we hate ourselves. But what we're doing is we're focusing almost entirely on ourselves. Every minute detail. Anxiety can be like this too, right? Like self-consciousness. You're like, you ever seen those people who try to act cool and they're like, am I holding my hand the right way? If I stand just so and maybe turn my foot and maybe I'll look cool if is my eyebrow up too high? You know, and cool people don't think like that, right? They just act natural. That's why people hate it when they get that advice, just be yourself, because they don't even understand what that means, right? Because they don't know who they are. So that advice doesn't help them. A better advice would be, you need to find yourself, right, in something. A good way to find yourself is to learn a skill. Okay, a musical instrument is great. Martial arts are great. I recommend it highly. A competitive game is great. All these things do different things. They all achieve the same goal, right? There's just different roads to get there. It's just like religion, spiritual paths, whatever. You know, the yogis will tell you that there's 112 different paths to enlightenment, right? You know, Gautama had one. His was the way of His was the way of what? What is Gautama's way? Let me think. The Buddha's way was a way of, just steady, just foundational, steady, easy does it. Mindful, just pay attention, just be aware. That's all you have to do, nothing else. Christ's way is a way of devotion, 100% devotion. Turn the other cheek, nothing in this world matters, pure spirit, anti-materialism, devotion to God, that's it. If you devote your entire life to God, you'll get there. So, there's different roads to get there. And our Taoism is a much different way. I consider myself a Taoist. Taoist is the middle way. You can be a butcher. You can be a cook. We don't like to be beggars. You can be a martial artist, a poet, a dancer, whatever. And that can be your road to God, And I believe all roads, ultimately, you know when you're doing something virtuous because you can feel yourself grow and you feel yourself hit those walls. You have those doubts. The path is there, right? So anyway, back to fighting games, right? And why people don't like to hear the advice, just be yourself and whatnot, and like incels, right? It's the scrub mentality, okay? It's the scrub mentality. The Scrub Lord's Prayer that, who do I subscribe to? I wish I could, I can't remember. I would shout him out, but I love his channel. Anyway, he has a video he does on Scrubs, and he talks about the Scrub Lord's Prayer, which is, my controller wasn't working, and if it was, you weren't playing fair, and if you were playing fair, then it's no fun to win that way, and if it is fun to win that way, then you only care about winning, right? So that's the Scrub Lord's Prayer, and we are all scrubs. We have all uttered these things at one point or another, whether it be in a fighting game or whatnot. We've said that move's broken, that character's broken. I'm using, like me, I always played low tier characters typically, right? And if I discovered the character I was playing was high tier, I would switch. That's just my nature. I always want to do something different that hasn't been done, because I presume that my theory of the world is that if everybody is doing something, that it cannot be the right thing, because crowds and group consciousnesses typically are incorrect, right? They're not the right way. The people we remember from history are the people who took their own path. But anyway, or expanded on another's path or whatever, the road less traveled. So we've all said the Scrub Lord's Prayer in one way or another, and we use it in life also. People say it in life, like relating to the incels. The way they think is my controller was broken is I'm too short or I'm too ugly or whatever. And then if they're not too ugly, then it's the Chads and the women aren't fair, right? They're unfair, okay? And then if you convince them that they are fair, well then it's what they do may be fair, but it's no fun. It would be no fun to get a woman if I had to play by those rules, right? So I refuse. And if you can convince me that it would be fun to get a woman if I played by those rules, then I would say all those people care about is getting laid, right? And I care about more than that. So that you can see how the Scrub Lord's Prayer transcends into all things. This is the roadblock of the self-defeating attitude. And you can see it manifest in fighting games so much, because a fighting game is just, you have what you have. You can both pick the same character. The playing field is level. And I don't play fighting games for any of those reasons. I don't play, like I said, competition ultimately drove me to want to do well. But I have more fun playing against somebody who beats me, who I get to learn, and I can beat them sometimes. Somebody who's just a little better than me, that makes me better by playing them. Even somebody who's a lot better than me will bring that out in me, and I'll be in the zone even more, and I'll become very aware of the mistakes I'm making, because just like everything in life, it's usually not that you need to do more, it's that you need to do less. Like Sun Tzu or the Tao Te Ching will say, victory, when two people are equally matched, victory will go to the one who knows how to yield. And you can see this in fighting games. one of the biggest mistakes newbies make in fighting games, they just want to jump in and rush in and attack. And they often, they can be defeated with one or two buttons even, just defense. It's a concept that's foreign to a lot of people. To yield, to back off. Look at the way that players like Justin Wong or some other players whiff punish. It makes all the difference in the world. It's amazing to watch. That's what footsies is about. And zoning, it's about yielding. That's ultimately every character in a fighting game is zoning, whether they just have their particular zone that they want to be in. Even Cammy in Street Fighter V has a zone that she wants to be in, which is typically in your face, right? Or just outside, depending on your character, maybe just outside of a certain attack range because of her walk speed. She can get in and out. She has her little places on the screen she wants to be in, and that's what zoning is. Some characters are better because they have larger spaces that they can operate in, like Dhalsim, for example, or Guile. They've got a large number of spaces on the screen where they can sort of limit your options. That's what zoning is where it limits your options, right? So, based on position, okay? And this is it's just like chess. It's just like anything. Position is very important. And knowing how to yield, it's like playing blue in Magic the Gathering. If you've ever played Magic, it's like it's knowing how to yield. And so my point is, I don't necessarily play to win. I enjoy losing as well, as long as I get into that zone and I'm learning something new about myself, right? And I'm stripping away the layers of superfluous activity and getting into a state of non-action and no mind, right? No thought. The thoughts of the day, what's going to happen tomorrow, that shit all disappears, man, when you're in that zone, that flow state. And it brings such a calm and peace into your life. And you can transcend the flesh and the mind and the limitations and the things you thought you can and can't do. With a self-defeating attitude, you'll never attain that. And there's so many other layers and levels to consciousness. I mean, that is just a window in. When I try to describe, I don't try to push meditation on people too much, but when I try to describe what meditation is, that's typically the route that I try to explain it to people as, because that's the best way that I understand it, is through that. That's sort of how meditation is. When you meditate, for me, it takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes of focusing on my breathing, and then I get in that zone, and then I'm there. And then I can do different things that I want. If I want to discover and deepen my ability to be silent and my reverence for silence and almost to enter the void at times, right? I can do that, and I can try to create as much space as possible between the thoughts and between the identity with thoughts, and it's easy to chart your progress because the thoughts will go from this thing is good or bad to this thing is or is not or was or might be, to this thing merely is, to there it is, to a simple acknowledgement like to nothing, right? That's the sort of the state it goes, is differentiating good and evil and then giving it an identity, a time and a place. So like when we begin to transcend the stories that we tell ourselves in meditation, right? For me personally, this is my experience. As I began to be able to let go of what's going on today, I found that the more I studied meditation, the more it clouded my mind, actually. So now I really try to read less and practice more. And so what happens is the idea of meditation will sort of become the distraction almost, if it starts to bring up thoughts of like, I'll notice some phenomenon when I'm within my body in pure awareness, and I'll be like, oh my god, it's so freaking amazing, this has never happened before. And then I'll say, wait a minute, you see, what you've done is you've now attached a label to this. So now if this is amazing, now then the next time I meditate, if I don't notice this thing or this phenomenon doesn't arise again, well then that meditation experience wasn't amazing, or maybe it was bad. So you see how you create your own reality, okay? And I'm not going to go too deep into meditation, but what I want you to know is if you've ever experienced something like this, there is another type of consciousness out there. And it is something that can never be accessed with a self-defeating attitude. It takes faith. Faith is what it takes, not belief. Belief is merely a construct of the ego and the intellect for you to build confidence and an identity around, okay? That's what belief is. We really don't know anything except that we are conscious as individuals. That's the only thing I know of for sure. Everything else I take on faith. I don't believe in God, but I have a faith in a God of my understanding, all right? And my goddess is a goddess. My goddess is female. That's what come to me many years ago when I had a profound and sudden spiritual experience. It took me a long time to realize what it was. It was a female presence, and now it's with me, and whenever I need it, it's there because I have faith in it. I have faith in God, in the universe, in Tao to just do whatever, and I try to get out of the way. And it's like this in all things. Whether you're pursuing if you want to pursue a mate, okay, if you want a girlfriend, you have to stop judging, be willing to take whatever comes, okay, accept whether she's fat, short, bald, ugly, black, Latino, white, whatever, Icelandic, you have to be willing to start somewhere, accept what you can get. This is what I talked about before when I went to the Buddhist temple, man. Accepting what's available, okay? You have to be willing to play the game. You don't have to be a sociopath about it. Just like when you play a fighting game to get good at it, you don't have to be ravenously obsessed with winning. Okay? It doesn't have to consume your life. It doesn't have to consume your personality. You just have to put in the work. You have to take suggestions from other people. You have to learn from your losses and your failures. You have to look at your failures with more excitement than your victories. A victory is just, it's like gambling addicts are addicted to failure, right? They've proven this. They like losing. That's where the excitement is. And life should be like this, right? That's a good aspect. Not when you're an addict and your brain's been rewired, but in life, a failure is an opportunity. A failure is an opportunity. A failure is an opportunity. I can't say this enough. When you fail, when you ask a girl and she doesn't like you and you fail, try to be objective and look at it reasonably. This is what meditation does for you. It'll allow you to look at things objectively. Pretend you're giving advice to someone else when you go over your day and what's happened, okay? How would you feel if you heard somebody else whining and whining and whining on like you are, saying the Scrub Lord's Prayer? It's pathetic. You're pathetic. It's okay. It's fine. I've been pathetic. I'm still pathetic in a lot of ways. I get whiny. I want somebody to stroke me, stroke my ego, and give me a hug, and that's okay. We need that as human beings. We do. And I hope that I can be your hug, but I also want to be I need to be more masculine, okay? And in being more masculine, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to be stern and say, if there's something that you are not accomplishing, you're not working hard enough for it. And all goals apart from the means are illusions, okay? If you want to have a girlfriend, yet you are unwilling to learn to enjoy, right, the steps along the way to getting one, then you won't enjoy it if you get one. It's just the reality of it. If you want to win at a fighting game, okay, but you don't want to practice, train, learn the combos, learn the option selects, learn your defensive options, then even if you do get victory, it's not going to be satisfying. The things you cherish are things that you earn. And the thing that you really earn from undertaking any kind of investment of your energy in your life like that is you gain self-knowledge. All knowledge ultimately means self-knowledge. Okay, the intelligent man knows others and knows the world outside of himself. But the wise man looks for answers within. So, the moral of this video is that we are all scrubs in some aspect of our life. I don't mean to pick on the incels. I don't. I just feel the most sorry for those guys because I know what that feels like. I don't know how I ever ended up with a girlfriend, but I did. I don't know. I've had a couple only. I'm 35. I've had like 2. And I've had sex with a few other girls drunk. That didn't mean anything. Okay? Some of those were very bad. I've had some very bad sexual experiences, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But I do know that I always felt that way. The same way that they described feeling, that's how I felt. I remember when I was 14, thinking all women were whores, probably 13, right? So I relate. I understand. I think it's kind of an epidemic for disenfranchised young beta white males. Um, I wish there was something I could do to help. I hope these words help someone. You can change. I'm evidence that you can change, of course. You know, I've got almost 3 months off heroin. If I can do it, anyone can do it. You know, I worked all day today, 3 days without any Suboxone. You know, I'm still on my wean down. So you can hear my nose sniffling right now. The last time I took any was 4 milligrams. I'm on my 4th day now. So um, anyway, my point is you can change. You just have to be willing to take a different look at yourself and to not be so self-defeating. Don't say that Scrub Lord's prayer, because realize it's not true. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When I would beat people at fighting games and they would say those kinds of things, they're not true. Okay? It's just simply not true. People do things because it comes naturally to them, they enjoy it, and it gives them a certain satisfaction and self-knowledge. That's why I did it. That's why, you know, other people might have more superficial motivations. That's okay. It's fine. Those people are fine. They're right where they need to be, and so are you. But if you are suffering, and you're aware that you're suffering, and you are realizing that you're tormenting yourself, but you're blaming it on other people, you attack the whole world outside of yourself, but at the end of the day, you hate yourself because you want to kill yourself. You want to blot out consciousness. Let me tell you that if you are feeling suicidal, then you're there. You're good to go. Okay? Because that's almost the key, man. That key will unlock a door for you to another dimension, rocketing you into the 4th dimension, as he says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's another kind of death, and that death is the death of the ego, the death of the hamster wheel mind, the monkey mind, the circus, the carousel, right? That plays them bad thoughts over and over again. That can die, and you can continue on experiencing life like a child again, right? Like a child. Take a walk in nature. Take a deep breath. Create some space between you and your thoughts. Figure out what you really want. Figure out what you really want. I want you to visualize what it would be like having the thing. If something is that you don't have is torturing you, try to look at somebody who does have it and see what their life is like. And look at it objectively. And see if that's what you really want. And if it is, then follow in someone else's footsteps and do what they did. Obviously, you tweak it for you because you have your own personality. We all have our own unique walk, I like to say. But do what works for you. And don't worry, be happy, as Bobby McFerrin said. Because when you worry, your face will frown, and that'll bring everybody down. So don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Do, 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 do.